Mia sat on her couch, staring at the pile of unpaid bills on the coffee table. The most urgent among them was the rent notice, bold red letters demanding immediate payment. She had already missed last month's rent, and now another deadline loomed over her. She had exhausted every option. Job applications went unanswered, friends couldn't lend her money, and every corner she turned seemed like a dead end. A knock at the door startled her. She knew who it was before even checking. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door to find Mr. Thompson, her landlord, standing there with a familiar expression, part concern, part impatience. "Mia, I gave you extra time," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You know I can't let this slide much longer." She swallowed the lump in her throat. "I understand, Mr. Thompson. I'm trying. I just need a little more time." He sighed, rubbing his chin. "Time doesn't pay the bills. Look, I'm not heartless. I know things are tough, but I have my own expenses too. If you can't pay by the end of the week, I'll have no choice but to take action." Mia's stomach twisted. She nodded, forcing a smile she didn't feel. "I get it. I'll figure something out." As he turned to leave, he hesitated. "There might be another way," he said slowly, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite place. "A way to ease the pressure a bit." Her pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "Just think about it. We'll talk soon." Then, without another word, he walked away, leaving Mia standing in the doorway, unsettled. That night, she tossed and turned in bed, replaying the conversation in her mind. The way he had looked at her, the way he had spoken, it felt off. But she couldn't afford to waste time worrying about implications. She needed money. The next morning, she made calls, applied for more jobs, even considered selling some of her belongings. Nothing panned out. The landlord's warning echoed in her head. The thought of being homeless terrified her. By evening, Mia was no closer to a solution. She sat in silence, staring at the notice on her table when another knock came at her door. Her breath caught. She opened it to see Mr. Thompson again, but this time, he wasn't alone. Two men stood beside him, both older, well-dressed, and eyeing her with amusement. "This is Mia," Mr. Thompson said, his tone lighter than before. "She's in a bit of a tough spot." One of the men chuckled. "A shame, really. But problems can always be solved in creative ways." Mia felt a chill run down her spine. She tightened her grip on the doorframe. Something about this didn't feel right. Mr. Thompson stepped closer. "We're here to help, Mia. Let's have a little chat." She didn't move. She just knew, whatever he was about to propose, it wasn't going to be good. Mia's pulse pounded in her ears as she stepped back, gripping the door tighter. The two men exchanged glances, smirking as if they were in on some private joke. Mr. Thompson, standing between them, gave her an easy smile, but his eyes held something colder. "You seem tense," he said. "We just want to talk." Mia forced herself to keep her voice steady. "About what?" One of the men, the taller one with graying hair, stepped forward. "Look, sweetheart, we know times are tough. Mr. Thompson here tells us you're in a bit of a financial jam." His voice was smooth, practiced. "We like helping people in need." Her stomach turned. "I'm not looking for handouts." The other man, broader and younger, chuckled. "No one's talking about handouts. We're businessmen. We make deals." Mia looked at Mr. Thompson, hoping she had misunderstood. He sighed as if this were all perfectly reasonable. "The truth is, you owe money. I could kick you out tomorrow, but I'm offering you a choice. My friends and I," he gestured toward them, "we appreciate good company. A little time with us, and your rent problem disappears." The words hit her like a slap. Her throat went dry. "You can't be serious." The taller man leaned against the doorframe, unfazed. "Come on, Mia. No strings attached. Just a good time. You walk away with no debt, and we all win." Mia's hands clenched into fists. "Get out." Mr. Thompson sighed again, shaking his head. "I was hoping you'd be reasonable about this." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded notice, and held it up. "You have exactly 3 days before I file for eviction. Think carefully." Mia slammed the door in their faces, her whole body shaking. She locked it, stepping away as their laughter echoed in the hallway. She sank onto her couch, breathing hard. Humiliation burned through her. They saw her desperation and thought they could buy her dignity. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Thompson. Don't make things harder than they need to be. Think about it. She tossed the phone aside, bile rising in her throat. The walls of her apartment suddenly felt suffocating. She considered her options. There weren't many. No savings, no family to fall back on, no job offers. She could call the police, but what would she say? They hadn't laid a hand on her. It was just words, suggestions, an offer. It wouldn't hold up as anything illegal. A friend's voice rang in her head. If you ever feel unsafe, record everything. Mia swallowed hard. If they came back, she needed proof. She needed leverage. She wouldn't let them take advantage of her. If Mr. Thompson thought she was trapped, he was wrong. She had 3 days. That was enough time to turn the tables. Mia spent the night wide awake, her mind racing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw their faces, smirking, confident, convinced she had no choice. The thought made her skin crawl. But she wasn't powerless. If they wanted to play games, she would make sure she had the upper hand. By morning, she had a plan. She scrolled through her phone, reading up on tenant rights, recording laws, and eviction policies. There was a fine line between legal and illegal, and she needed to push them over that line. Her hands trembled as she set up a small recording app on her phone. If Mr. Thompson or his friends returned, she would have proof. Proof that could ruin them. She didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, another knock came. She inhaled sharply, hit record, and opened the door. Mr. Thompson stood alone this time. He looked almost amused. I was hoping you'd come to your senses, he said, stepping inside uninvited. Have you thought about my offer? Mia forced herself to stay calm. I have. His expression shifted into satisfaction. Good girl. I knew you were smart. She crossed her arms. I just need to understand the details. Mr. Thompson leaned against the counter, relaxed. It's simple. My friends and I take care of you, and in return, you don't have to worry about rent. A win-win. She tilted her head. Take care of me how?
He smirked.
You know exactly what I mean. Mia felt sick, but she kept her voice steady. And if I refuse? His smile faded. Then you're out by the end of the week. She nodded slowly. So, let me get this straight. You're saying if I don't spend time with you and your friends, you'll evict me? Mr. Thompson sighed, as if tired of explaining. It's not blackmail, Mia. It's just an opportunity. If you're smart, you'll take it. She smiled for the first time. I think I've heard enough. Before he could react, she grabbed her phone and hit stop on the recording. His face paled slightly. What are you doing? She played back the last few seconds, his voice ringing out clearly. If you're smart, you'll take it. His jaw tightened. Delete that. Mia held her phone tight.
No.
His eyes darkened. You have no idea what you're messing with. She took a step back. Neither do you. Now get out. For the first time, she saw uncertainty flicker across his face. He hesitated, then turned on his heel and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Mia locked it and exhaled shakily. Her hands were still trembling, but for the first time in weeks, she felt something close to power. She had everything she needed. Now it was time to take him down. Mia wasted no time. She backed up the recording, sending copies to her email and a trusted friend. This wasn't just about her rent anymore. This was about justice. She made her first call to a local tenant advocacy group, explaining the situation. The woman on the other end listened carefully, then asked her to send the recording. Within an hour, they responded with legal advice and the name of a lawyer willing to take her case. Her second call was to the police. She kept her explanation brief, forwarding them the evidence. They didn't promise immediate action, but they took it seriously. That was enough. The next day, Mia received an email from the lawyer. He assured her that what Mr. Thompson had done was illegal, coercion, intimidation, and abuse of power. He encouraged her to take legal action and connected her with local reporters covering landlord exploitation cases. By noon, her story had traction. A news article exposed Mr. Thompson's threats, mentioning that the police were investigating. Tenant rights groups shared it widely, urging others to come forward if they had similar experiences. Mia knew it was only a matter of time before he found out. And he did. That evening, she heard furious banging on her door. Mr. Thompson's voice rang through the hallway. "You think you're smart? You have no idea what you've done." She didn't answer. Let him yell. Let the neighbors hear. Her phone buzzed. A message from her lawyer: "Stay inside. The police are on their way." Minutes later, flashing lights illuminated her window. The shouting stopped. She heard officers speaking, then footsteps retreating. When she peeked outside, Mr. Thompson was in handcuffs, looking stunned. Relief flooded her. It was over. In the days that followed, more tenants came forward. Some had similar stories, others had different complaints. Investigations revealed that Mr. Thompson had been preying on struggling tenants for years. His two friends, exposed in the reports, vanished from public view. Mia moved out soon after. A friend helped her find a new apartment with a reputable landlord. It wasn't easy to start over, but she felt lighter, stronger. She had fought back and won. One evening, she received an unexpected call from a woman she didn't know. "You don't know me," the woman said, voice trembling, "but I saw your story. He tried the same thing with me last year, but I was too scared to speak up. I just wanted to say thank you." Mia swallowed the lump in her throat. "You're not alone," she said. "None of us are." She hung up, staring out at the city lights, knowing she had done the right thing. She had taken back her power, and no one would ever take it from her again.